January 22nd. While everyone else was using possibly the smartest tool humanity has ever created to write furry femboy porn, I decided that in classic Joshy J style, I'd use it to make some dumb shit. And let me tell you, this video took me down an insane rabbit hole of tutorials, collabs, and crying. So let's get started. Right, now first let's give our pal here something to actually go off of. So,
How about a survival game set on a deserted island? The player starts off stranded on the island with limited resources and must gather materials, build shelter, and fend off dangerous wildlife while trying to find a way to escape the island. As the player progresses, they can unlock new tools and equipment, and possibly even discover other survivors on the island. The ultimate goal is to survive long enough to find a way off the island before running out of resources or succumbing to the harsh island environment.
well, that was easy. And so with that very original idea, I asked the AI to go into a little more depth on how I could make it stand out from basically every other game conceived ever. And it had just the thing.
Procedural generation can also help to make the island feel more alive and dynamic. With different resources, biomes and creatures for the player to encounter, it can also make it more difficult for players to share strategies or cheat the system.
Sick.
However, it's worth noting that procedural generation can be a complex and resource-intensive...
Shut up! Now, if you don't know what procedural generation is, it's just Minecraft. Infinite land, randomly made. First off, I have no idea where to start when it comes to procedural generation, especially when it comes to the coding side of things. Finally, after a few hours of research, I was a little bit closer than I was when I started. Anyway, I stumbled upon an Unreal Engine plugin called Voxel, which seemed to have everything I needed. I was excited to try out Voxel, especially after my past experiences with other plugins. So first I had to fix this stupid ass door system because it just simply no worky. That also no worky. God, there's so much code. Does this say 0? Why does it fade up the stamina widget at the same time? Why does it take so much code? But this time I was determined to make it work. So I watched a tutorial on how to use Voxel and felt like I was making progress. Until I realised that I needed the pro version of the plugin to get the full range of features. But unfortunately, I'm a cheap ass. So I spent countless hours scouring the depths of the internet, searching for any kind of alternative to Voxel Pro. But as it turns out, searching for procedural generation solutions on forums is like searching for a hair on Andrew Tate's head.
Hi.
But why are they so hard to find? Well, in truth, because it's hard and nobody can be fucked to do it. So after the Voxel plugin let me down, I was back to square one and had to do some more research. That's when I stumbled upon a plugin called Geometry Script, as well as a way to randomly generate a thing called Perlin noise. Now, Perlin noise is a technique used to make things look random and natural, like clouds or the surface of the sea. It does this by creating random variations in height. The higher the height, the whiter it is. And the lower the height, the blacker it is. Now, the special thing about Geometry Script is that it had a node that allowed me to add Perlin noise to meshes, essentially allowing me to randomly deform them. With that, I tried to add Perlin noise to a circular mesh to create a island effect, as the deformed vertices of the circle would look like mountains. So I knew I needed to edit the blueprint of a static mesh to add the node for Perlin noise, but I had no idea how to do it. This was because the only way to edit static meshes is in C++, and no. Simply no. After some googling, I discovered that I needed to convert them to dynamic actors in order to edit their blueprints, which was a completely new concept to me.
What the fuck is that?
Despite countless hours of searching, I was never really able to grasp the complexity of dynamic actors. So, once again, I was back to square one, and I started scouring the internet for any information I could find on procedural generation. Every tutorial, every forum post, I was desperate for any glimmer of hope to at least try and piece together a plan. And finally, after a few hours of searching, I stumbled upon a video that just might work. This marvellous ray of hope in the form of a small but mighty YouTube channel called Unreal Game Dev. And he had a tutorial that covered exactly what I was struggling to piece together on my own. And the best part? There was no fucking plugins. Yes! Anyway, I eagerly watched all 4 of his tutorials, even though I had no idea what was going on. But through sheer determination, I managed to make a randomly generated square. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Despite my newfound success, I still didn't understand anything about the blueprint I was using. I knew nothing about the blueprint, nothing about how to replicate it, and most importantly, nothing about how to make it into an island. There was no help online and nothing on the Unreal Engine documentation. It was as if making this into an island was impossible and nobody had done it. To me at least, there seemed to be only one man who could help.
Hi.
After explaining my struggles with getting the randomly generated square to look like an island,
To generate an island, you can use two maps. One map is Berlin noise map, and the other one called Follow map. Fell-off map.
he introduced me to the concept of a fall-off map, which essentially lowers the ground around the edges to create a more believable island shape. With his expertise, we were able to implement the fall-off map into the blueprint. Thanks to Unreal Game Dev, I was finally able to bring my vision to life and create the stunning, procedurally generated island I had always imagined. About that stunning thing. The island was incredible, but also incredibly spiky. I tried asking the forums for help, but didn't receive much assistance. No offense to the forums on that, what I was doing was incredibly specific. But with that route exhausted, I just tried to figure it out on my own. So I first needed to make it so that every time the game was played, a new island was generated. Now this was no easy feat, as I had to delve into the code and make numerous adjustments. And I had no idea what I was doing, but you know what? I was determined to figure it out myself. And in the end, my stubbornness paid off. Now to fix this bullshit. Now in order to get the Berlin noise actually working, I had to install a plugin called Fast Noise. Now instantly when I saw I was having issues, I googled tutorials on how to use the plugin. And after, once again, hours of searching, I finally found the documentation for the plugin online and realised it had none of the information I needed to get started on fixing my issue. However, it held a link for a GitHub page for the plugin. Now, I didn't expect much, if anything, to come of this because GitHub confungles me at the best of times. But to my insane luck, the page included software that allowed me to visualise the changes I was making to the Berlin noise in real time. This saved my life as at last I was able to see what variables I needed to alter. Finally, for the first time in this video, I took a W. A fat one. And after a little while, I finally discovered the solution to my spiky island problem by lowering the frequency variable. With smooth, seamless islands now randomly generated, I spent good few days playing around with the settings. So now, with the island finally taking shape, I textured it and added water so it finally looks like an island and not just some grey blob. So, what does every survival game on an island need? Trees. Now, I encountered a major challenge when I tried to add a random tree system to the island. The issue was that the island is generated randomly every time the game starts, making it impossible for the game to know where to place the trees. Furthermore, the island wasn't a static mesh, but rather a blueprint that creates its own vertices. What? Adding an extra layer of complexity to the task at hand, as I couldn't use raycasting. What? So my idea at this point was to have the game spawn a square of random trees above the island when it's formed. And once the island is finished, it will have the trees drop, and any that landed above Y level 0 would stay, while the rest, aka the ones that land in the water, would get deleted. Now, this all sounds well and good until you realise, I have no idea how to do any of that. But I gave it my best shot, and after pissing around with some of the physics variables for a while, I came up with this. It looked awful, but look, this project has been going on like 2 weeks now, and I've been confused every single step of the way. At this point, you'd settle for mediocre as well. I then changed the texture of the island to sand because logic, and just because I can, I yoinked the stamina and health system from my Baldi's Basic remake. Link in top right. And when doing so, I playtested it, and oh, would you look at that, importing a new player and game mode absolutely fucked the character system